Pat Leonard, New York Daily News, been a busy guy as the Giants have been front and center with the firing of Ben McAdoo, the firing of Jerry Reese, and now we move on to figure out who's going to replace Jerry Reese as the general manager and who will be the next head coach of the Giants. Pat Leonard joins us here on Big Board Sports. Pat, Roger Weiland, Chris Honorato, good morning.
Roger and Chris, good morning. I remember talking Super Bowl at the beginning of the year. I remember that.
Pat, I remember standing right out in front of the facility in the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, and you were part of our show. You were part of our beat writer segment that we did, and we appreciate that. But it was hot, it was warm, and just finished up practice, or practice might have still been going on. And you're right. We were saying a lot of nice things about the Giants and the kind of season where we thought they were going to have. And what a disaster, Pat.
Amazing. And, it was already a season where everything, something went wrong, and then you said it can't get worse. And then the next week it would get worse. But, when John Mara and Steve Tisch released basically several different statements through an ESPN report, then through the report after the Niners game, saying, listen, we're frustrated too, but we're going to wait until the end of the season. Who would have thought that this Eli Manning situation, that John Mara would actually okay this plan, that he would basically hold Ben McAdoo accountable in season for it, and then admit that he oversaw the whole thing and okayed the plan that Eli said no to? Like, it's gone catastrophic meltdown bad for the Giants, and we thought it was already there.
All right, let's turn to some candidates here that would make sense for the Giants to have high on their list, and I would think one of them is Josh McDaniels, although when asked, he said he's most interested right now in the Miami Dolphins, which is really good Bill Belichick speak. But I have to believe McDaniels would be interested in the job. Would he be a guy you think the Giants are interested in, Pat?
I mean, he's definitely got to get an interview if as long as he wants one. I wouldn't see why he wouldn't. I mean, this is a job where, presumably Odell Beckham Jr. will be re-signed long-term, so you have one of the best players in the league who you also have to handle. You have to be the authority figure in the room, which Ben McAdoo wasn't always able to do. But, I think a guy like Josh McDaniels, we all know Belichick failed in his first coaching stint, and McDaniels failed in Denver, but I think you want an offensive mind and somebody who can be a quarterback whisperer, no matter whether it's the head coach or an offensive coordinator that the head coach brings in, because even if Eli Manning does stick around after this season, the priority has to be somebody who can get this offense going and groom the next quarterback, whether it's Davis Webb or the person you draft in the top 5 to become that next Eli Manning, the successor.
All right, Pat, how about this name for a quarterback whisperer guru type? He has his own TV show even about quarterbacks coming out of college. Is John Gruden a pipe dream? He didn't exactly dismiss it during Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I do think, when Gruden's name comes up with every coaching search,
right,
usually it's just smoke. But, with the jobs like the Notre Dame job and the Giant job, like those are jobs where John Gruden has to be interested. I mean, it's not every day that the Giants press a total reset button and invite basically come one, come all. I think Dave Gettleman is the clear front runner to become the general manager. Now, who is his guy? Who are the coaches that he would then recommend to Mara and Tisch? I don't know. I do think Gruden would be interested, though. In my opinion, Bill Cowher, if he shows interest, is almost a more intriguing name even than Gruden. I know Gruden's an offensive mind, but, coming off Ben McAdoo's problems kind of controlling this team and having players revolting, you want to talk about a guy who's going to whip people into shape. Maybe Cowher's that guy and he hires a coordinator, but these are all legitimate names. It's not crazy to throw John Gruden's hat into the ring.
Time with Pat Leonard, New York Daily News. Eli Manning goes back under center. I want to assume he will start the rest of this season. I know you wrote a piece, and I totally agree with the story you wrote, and I've been on it for a while too, is I really think that Davis Webb needs to get in there and get his feet wet and do something, especially in a 2-10 season. Do you think the Giants will make that happen? and not tick off Eli Manning?
I think Webb eventually will start here. I think now that they've ended the streak for nothing, I think Manning will understand that, and I do think he'll start at least, I would hope, at least 2 to 3 games down the stretch. I think starting Manning on Sunday is a move to get fans back in the seats. I think it's a move for John Mara to try to make things right with Eli, even though it's never going to happen. Like, you can't undo what you did. I think part of the reason Webb probably isn't starting this week is because Ben McAdoo somehow decided to move on. Well, not just McAdoo, John Mara decided to move on from Eli Manning, and yet in Oakland left Webb inactive. I still can't get over that. I still can't get over that. He should have been active coming out of the bye week in Week 9 against the Rams, and then you move on from Eli, you end his streak at 210 games, and this kid's standing on the sidelines in street clothes. It's unbelievable. But he should definitely be active. As you said, I wrote that I think Webb should be starting here, but maybe the reason is because Ben McAdoo didn't have him ready to do so.
Hey, Pat, isn't this fun? We get to ask you all sorts of questions about what should, could, might happen, and I've got another one for you. Is Eli the quarterback in 2018? And if he is, or if they're toying with the idea of keeping him around, do you get the impression he's the type of guy who would embrace the role as mentor to a top 3 pick?
That's a great question. I still lean to the side of this is it for Eli, in the sense that, he can't go out the way he envisioned he wanted to go out as a Giant anymore. That has been ruined. So part of starting him this Sunday is trying to make that right. It's not going to happen. I think, though, that if Eli has anything left now, because he doesn't have the streak, he doesn't have ending his Giants career the way he wanted to, what he has left is trying to join a team that can win next season. And, I wouldn't say, I'm not going to say he's definitely going somewhere else, but as Archie Manning told our Gary Myers the day after he got benched, this is the first time Eli has considered the possibility that he would play somewhere other than the Giants. And so whether that actually happens or not, and there's a lot of factors, right? The new GM and coach, they might want Eli as a caretaker, or they might want to say, no, he's not our guy. Our guy is, Josh Rosen, for example, and we have Davis Webb, too, and Geno Smith is a cheaper option to be a caretaker or somebody else, whatever the case is. But I lean to this is it for Eli as a Giant.
See, I think that Eli can still play at a fairly high level. I mean, obviously, he's not one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now, but I still think if you get healthy wide receivers back for next season and somehow you figure out a way to improve the offensive line and you put Eli Manning under center, I still think he's an above-average quarterback that the Giants would want to keep around.
Yeah, that's a really good topic to debate, because I would argue the opposite point. And not that I think I agree with everything you just said, Roger, as far as, look, no matter who you put back there right now for the Giants, like you saw with Geno Smith, he actually played pretty well. They scored 17 points, but 2 sack fumbles. Why? Well, one of them was, he should have been more aware. But bottom line is, with this offensive line and with a receiving core that isn't star-studded the way it was supposed to be, with Odell and Shepard and Marshall was supposed to play well, no one's going to play perfectly and no one's going to play great. I agree. But last year, I defended Eli. I thought he played well. I thought he had a strong arm the whole year. I thought he didn't show any signs of deteriorating. I think this season, despite everything around him crumbling, there have been plenty of opportunities for him to make plays to either keep them in a game or win them a game, and he hasn't done it. Of course, the defense has let him down, like in games in Philadelphia and Tampa Bay. Eli should have won them those games and did everything he could have, and the defense let him down. So to your point, that would defend what you're saying, but against the Rams, he missed Sterling Shepard over his head on his play that would have kept them tied or kept that game tied going into half. In San Fran, he fumbled in the red zone, so anyone saying Geno does that, Eli's been doing it too. He missed Jane Vereen in the red zone in Washington. There's just been too many plays that he has missed. So, but that's going to be a great debate point really all offseason until they make a decision.
Pat Leonard of the Daily News with us here. Check him out on Twitter at PLeonardNYDN. In a way, Pat, if I were a Giants fan, some of this kind of excites me, and I'm not like a masochist, but I just think that, like the idea of a totally new prospect of what could be ahead for a franchise with a top 3 pick, head coach, GM, total overhaul.
For sure. And I think also because as a Giant fan, I think Giants fans are smart. They know how the Giants are supposed to operate, and they know that the Giants weren't operating that way under Jerry Reese and Ben McAdoo. They were missing the playoffs 5 of 6 years. That's not okay anywhere, let alone for the New York Football Giants. I also think a part of the reason Jerry Reese got fired here and why you should be excited as a Giants fan is that I would have been frightened, scared to death for Reese to make that pick.
Right.
And, like his last 2 first-rounders in the top 10, he's taken Eric Flowers and Eli Apple. You needed a different person making that draft pick, and the Giants fans get that now.
Pat Leonard, always a pleasure, man. A busy time, so much going on with this. So many layers when it comes to writing about the Giants, but keep up the great work. We enjoy it, and I'm sure we'll talk to you down the road.
Thanks, Roger and Chris. Take care.